Okay, so we need to talk about something that sounds like a fever dream but is actually one of the most mind-bending thought experiments in human science. What if you and your ancestor from 50,000 years ago swapped bodies, like full Freaky Friday situation? You wake up in their body, they wake up in yours, and neither of you has any idea what just happened. Let's start with you, because honestly your situation is immediately terrible. You open your eyes and the first thing you notice is that everything hurts. Not like a bad sleep hurts. Every single muscle in your body is screaming because your ancestor's body has been doing hard physical labor literally every day since they were old enough to walk. This body has chased animals for miles. It has climbed trees. It has hauled things that modern humans would need machinery for. And you, who considers walking to the kitchen a workout, are now inside it. Congratulations! You are in the best physical shape of your life, and you have absolutely no idea how to use any of it. Then you look around, and the landscape does not have any buildings in it, or roads, or any of the infrastructure that your brain has been using as landmarks your entire life. There is just nature. Infinite, detailed, completely unreadable nature. You do not know which plants are safe to eat. You do not know which animals are predators and which are not. You do not know which direction water is, or how far away shelter might be, or what that sound was that just came from the trees to your left. Your ancestor's brain, the actual hardware running in their skull, knows all of this instinctively. But that brain is currently 50,000 years in the future, having what can only be described as the most significant mental breakdown in recorded history. So right now you are just standing in the wilderness with a brain full of Netflix recommendations and absolutely zero survival skills. And then something moves in the bushes. Anthropologist and evolutionary biologist Mark Pagel at the University of Reading has studied the cognitive differences between modern humans and our prehistoric ancestors, and what he found should genuinely humble every person alive today. Our ancestors were not less intelligent than us. They were differently intelligent. A prehistoric human operating in their natural environment was processing an extraordinary amount of real-time environmental data that modern humans have completely lost the ability to read. They could identify over 100 different plant species on sight. They could read animal tracks and know the species, direction, speed, and time elapsed since the animal passed. They could navigate by stars, wind patterns, moss growth, and the behavior of birds. Skills that took a lifetime of embodied learning in that specific environment to develop. Skills that are now sitting in a body 50,000 years in the future being absolutely destroyed by a touch screen. Now let's talk about your ancestor. They wake up in your body, in your bedroom, and the first thing that happens is the alarm goes off. And they have never heard a sound like that in their entire life, so they immediately fall out of bed trying to get away from it. The ceiling is too close. The walls are too close. Everything is made of materials that do not exist in their experience. The floor feels wrong. The air smells wrong, like chemicals and processed food, and the vague synthetic smell of modern life that you are so used to you cannot even detect it anymore. And it is absolutely overwhelming every single one of their senses simultaneously. Neuroscientist and author David Eagleman at Stanford University has written about how the human brain constructs reality from sensory input filtered through learned expectations. Your ancestor's brain has zero learned expectations for anything in your environment. Everything they see, hear, smell, and touch is arriving with no existing framework to interpret it. The light switch on the wall is not recognizable as a tool. The toilet is genuinely confusing and slightly terrifying. The refrigerator makes a noise they cannot source, and when it opens, cold air comes out of a box, which is frankly miraculous and also very suspicious. And the phone is going to take a while. But here is the part that is genuinely fascinating and not just funny, because your ancestor is not stupid. They are not confused because they lack intelligence.
Nope.
They are confused because they have a different intelligence, one that is exquisitely calibrated to a world that no longer exists around them. Psychologist Steven Pinker at Harvard University argues in his research on cognitive evolution that the human brain is essentially a collection of specialized tools developed for specific ancestral environments. Your ancestor's brain has tools that are extraordinarily sophisticated, tools for social reading, for threat detection, for environmental pattern recognition that are simply pointed at the wrong environment. Which means your ancestor, once the initial shock passes, starts doing exactly what they would do in any new environment. They start observing. They start building a mental map. They figure out that the light switch controls the ceiling fire. They figure out that the cold box contains food that does not need to be hunted. They figure out that the rectangular glass thing shows moving images of people and sounds, which is probably spiritual because nothing else explains it. They are learning your world through the lens of their world. And their learning speed is actually remarkable, because a brain shaped by 50,000 years of surviving genuinely dangerous environments is a brain that is very good at rapidly processing new information when survival depends on it. Meanwhile, you are doing considerably worse. Because surviving in a prehistoric environment is not just about being brave or determined. It requires an entire library of embodied knowledge that you do not have and cannot quickly acquire. Biologist and anthropologist Richard Wrangham at Harvard University has spent decades studying the physical and cognitive demands of prehistoric survival, and his research paints a picture that is genuinely humbling. The average prehistoric human had a caloric burn rate roughly twice that of a modern sedentary person, simply from the physical demands of daily life. They maintained detailed mental maps of territories spanning hundreds of square miles. They managed complex social relationships within their tribe that required constant political awareness and emotional intelligence operating at a level most modern humans never need to access. They were, in the most direct sense, operating at closer to full human capacity than most of us ever do. And you do not know any of it, you cannot read the tracks, you cannot identify the plants, you cannot interpret the sounds. Your anxiety, a modern invention powered by a brain that evolved for a high-stakes environment but now runs in a low-stakes one and redirects that stress response toward emails and social media, is going absolutely haywire. Because you are now in an environment where the stress response is entirely appropriate, every rustle in the bushes might actually be something, every stranger you encounter might actually be hostile, every decision about where to go and what to eat might actually be the difference between living and not living. Here is the thing though, and this is the part that should make you feel something important. Both of you, you and their body and your ancestor and yours, share the same fundamental brain architecture. The same capacity for language, for creativity, for social bonding, for problem solving. The hardware is identical. What is different is the software, the accumulated learned knowledge of a specific environment and culture. Cognitive scientist and philosopher Andy Clark at the University of Edinburgh calls this extended cognition. The idea that human intelligence is never just inside the skull, but is always distributed across the tools, environment, and cultural knowledge surrounding us. Strip away that extended scaffolding, the buildings, the language, the phones, the infrastructure, and modern humans are remarkably vulnerable. Give your ancestor access to that scaffolding, and they would learn to use it faster than you might expect. Which means the real answer to what would happen if you swapped bodies with your ancestor is this. You would both be confused, you would both be scared, you would both be operating in an environment your brain was not trained for, but you would also both be human, fully, completely, remarkably human, with the same curiosity, the same determination, the same capacity for learning that your species has always had. Your ancestor would figure out your phone eventually, probably faster than you figured out how to survive their world, and they would have absolutely zero patience for your notifications. Honestly fair. Guys, if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and do subscribe for more related content. Thanks for watching.